Protests against a proposed judicial overhaul have been continuing in Israel, despite Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delaying plans to push through legislation. Public anger has led to a general strike and seen thousands of Israelis take to the streets. Opponents accuse Netanyahu of a power grab, saying the changes will give the ruling coalition unchecked power. Natasha Ghoneim reports from West Jerusalem.
In the face of protests growing by the day, a reversal by a prime minister not known for compromise.
From a national responsibility, from the will to avoid the rift within the people, I decided to suspend the second and third reading from the law in this Knesset tenure, in order to give time to get to a broad consensus to pass the legislation during the next Knesset.
Benjamin Netanyahu gave way as the country faced growing paralysis, with a nationwide strike closing airports, schools, banks, and businesses. Tens of thousands filled the streets to voice their frustrations.
We're fighting for this attempt to overthrow the judiciary and take control by the politician will be thrown away from the table. And we're also asking that Benjamin Netanyahu will resign and take responsibility for what he has done to this country.
But Netanyahu's delay came with a price. Hardline National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir said his party only agreed to the delay in exchange for the formation of a new National Guard under the command of Ben-Gvir's office. There were divisions within the ruling coalition. Some called for uniting behind Netanyahu to halt the judicial overhaul and defuse the crisis. Others dug in, saying they would not surrender to violent anarchy and the tyranny of the minority. The far-right governing coalition and supporters say they will not have the vote or the state stolen from them.
I think it is a tremendous mistake to stop the reform. However, I can understand, because of the heat of the moment and the fighting that's going on, he has to make a calculated decision. But the reform is an absolute necessity for this country to continue in a democratic fashion.
Left unresolved, the post of defense minister. It was Netanyahu's firing of Yoav Gallant on Sunday that brought the crisis to a head. As of Monday evening, Gallant had not received a formal dismissal letter. Netanyahu has 48 hours to name a successor. Natasha Ghoneim, Jazeera, West Jerusalem.
Well, let's get more on this now. We're joined by Dan Arbel. He's a former Israeli diplomat and scholar at the Center for Israeli Studies at American University, and he's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your time. Do you think that this delay to the reforms will lead to any negotiations, any compromise between the government and opposition parties?
I'm expecting negotiations to begin in the next few days between representatives of the government and representatives of the opposition. However, these negotiations it's not very promising. The gaps are wide, and it's going to be very hard to reach a broad base of agreement over the proposal. And so we should give it a chance. There is a chance that it would succeed, but then I think I would be very cautious in saying there will be a breakthrough anytime soon.
Is there anything short of scrapping these reforms that would be enough for those opposed to it?
So among those who oppose it, you have the members of parliament, leaders of the opposition, that have vowed and therefore are delivering on their promise to enter negotiations with the Netanyahu government. On the other side, you have leaders, ordinary people, leaders of the protest movement, who are not willing to make any compromise until the proposal is shelved. And so there is a divide there, and it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. The protest movement is not going anywhere, and it will continue. The question is whether the representative of the opposition, their aligned protesters, would be willing to make any compromises.
And the protesters say that they're not going anywhere because the proposed reforms are a threat to the state of Israel, to the idea of a democratic Israel. And so that's why they say that they can't compromise on this. Do you think they have a point?
They all have very valid points. The question is, what's realistic at this point? Netanyahu right now has a 64-seat majority in the Knesset, and he is not willing to compromise at this point on that. He's not stepping down. And so the question is it realistic to demand his stepping down? I don't know if it can work. Definitely Netanyahu has fractured the nation. He's definitely caused a lot of damage. The level of trust in his leadership is very low. And I think, the next few days will be critical in determining the direction of where this is going.
64 is a very slim majority in a 120-member Knesset, isn't it, Mr. Arbel? Do you see anyone in Netanyahu's coalition government taking away their support for these reforms?
Right now, they're pretty united behind him. The question will be in the coming days how there are some voices that are calling him to soften the proposal, to make compromises. Those are a very slim minority within the coalition, and it's not entirely sure whether he needs 61 to pass this, and so far he has it. Whether there will be 3 or 4 or 5 that will switch to the other side or just abstain, it's an open question right now.
And as you say, the next few days, few weeks are crucial. Do you think that the delay could take the steam out of the protest movement? Do you think that that's what Prime Minister Netanyahu is hoping for?
That's definitely what he's hoping for, but the way I see the protest movement is very energized and is very determined, and I don't think they're going anywhere. And therefore, I believe that Netanyahu's hopes are just false hopes. They're not. He will not be able to dissolve this protest movement. That's my opinion.
Mr. Arbel, it's great to get your insights on the story. We do appreciate it. That is Dan Arbel joining us live from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.